Hi friends, welcome to your next art challenge. This week we are going to be looking at printmaking. Printmaking is all around us. Maybe you'll notice that some of the fabrics in your house, if you look at one side of the fabric, there's a design, and if you look at the other side, the design's not there. When we do that, we can tell that the design isn't woven, that it's actually painted onto that surface. Let me show you an example of some printmaking I found in my house. This is a dish towel that actually my sister-in-law handmade. And she took a piece of fabric and she made a stamp, that little plus stamp, she made that herself. And she dipped it in some paint or some dye and made an artful design on this dish towel. But if you look at the other side, we can't see the X's, only just through the see-through material. They're printed on this side. So printmaking is everywhere. Printmaking is on our clothing and on all kinds of things. So I thought, what is printmaking? It turns out there are 4 different kinds of printmaking, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. If you want to know more about them, that's an opportunity for self-study. But basically, the printmaking that I'm thinking about sharing with you today is the process of making pictures or designs on an object, pressed with another object with ink in between. That's mainly what the kind of printmaking I'm going to show you today. So I want to show you some ways that you can make some prints in your house. Let me start by showing you some prints that I made while I was thinking about this idea, and I'll tell you how I made them, and it might give you some ideas about how you might make some prints at your house. This first one up here in the corner you probably recognize as a leaf print. If you can see that closely, you can see the lines inside the veins of the leaf. I took this leaf, making sure to use the bumpy side up, and I colored over it with a colored pencil. A crayon will work better. If you have crayons, take off the paper of the crayons and rub them this way across a leaf underneath a paper to see what kind of designs you might be able to create. You can even take your printmaking outside. You can take your paper and put it on a tree and rub your crayon up and down to get a print of the bark on the tree. Here are some other ways I made prints. I'm going to talk about these right now. A while back, I made some stamps, and I made these stamps out of an eraser. This is actually an art gum eraser. Now, I made this stamp with a sharp tool. I don't want you to do that, but I'm showing you this stamp in case you have some stamps around your house, because if you do, you can also make prints. Now, I didn't even have an ink pad in order to make these images right here. I just took my stamp that I had previously made a few years back, and I colored onto the stamp with markers. You have markers. I bet you have markers from your school bag that we gave you back when you picked it up not too long ago. So you can use markers to color on a stamp to make designs. But if you don't have a stamp, here's some other things that you can do. I took this cork that I had around my house and I put a rubber band onto the cork so it would have some texture. Can you see that? And then I dipped that in some paint and I rolled it onto this paper. I just rolled it in some paint and then I rolled it on the paper, and you can see the imprint of the rubber bands that are wrapped around that cork. If you have a toilet paper tube or a paper towel tube, you can wrap string around the paper towel tube or toilet paper tube. But I didn't have one handy, so I used an old shampoo bottle. So I took this old shampoo bottle and I wrapped string around it to give it some texture, and then I rolled it in some paint, and then I rolled that right onto my paper, and I got this cool design. Isn't that amazing? This would make some really awesome wrapping paper. if you made a bunch of it. If you don't have any paper around the house that you can use, also consider using paper bags. I bet your family has some paper bags stuffed here or there. You can cut those paper bags apart and you'll have a nice flat surface of paper to make some prints. Here are some other things that I used to make prints. I have this rubber band ball and I thought, oh, that would be so cool as a print. And I tried to use it with ink. So I just took my smelling marker and I just colored all over one side of the rubber band ball, and I was able to make this design. Pretty cool, right? Okay, now this part you're gonna have to ask your family about. Well, all the parts you're gonna have to ask your family about, but this one especially. I went to my refrigerator, and I bet you think, like, what could I possibly find in my refrigerator? I found some cabbage, which has a really cool texture when you cut it in a section off. And with that cabbage, I dipped it into the blue paint and I made these prints with the cabbage. Cool, right? Then I decided, well, that's not the only thing with a cool texture or shape. I got this slice of pepper, which has such a cool shape, right? And I used it in the paint to create this pattern. The vegetables work better if they're dry. So if you are experimenting with vegetable printing, please make sure that you dry off the surface as much as possible. I also even used a potato. Now, a potato slice makes a great print, but if you can carve something into the potato, I tried to kind of carve around the edges with a butter knife. And again, you're going to need permission and help if you want to do this, and you need to know what the rules are at your house. But I'm not telling you to use a knife by yourself. I'm asking you to please talk to an adult before you do something like this. And I was trying for a raindrop or a teardrop, and I dipped it into the paint, and I got something close to a teardrop, not exactly what I had anticipated, so it actually just looks kind of cool and geometric. Oh, I forgot to talk about these. Back to this little guy. Instead of rolling him, I colored one end with a marker, and then I was able to go boop, boop, boop to make that cool print. I hope that these ideas inspire you to think about how you could make designs on paper using printmaking techniques. Again, there's a lot I don't know about printmaking, and it was really fun to just start to investigate it a little bit. What can you find out about printmaking? How can you make some prints that you can show us on our next Art Challenge Flip Grid? All right, there you go, artists. Let's see your flip grids.